Hi, hello, my name is Kai and welcome to my channel. Today's video is going to be the books I read in March, so like my March wrap-up video. The month of March was a bit of a weird one for me. I started off really well doing the year-a-thon challenge of retelling, and then I found myself in a bit of a reading slump, but I'll speak a bit more about that later. So I think I only managed to finish about 6 physical books, then I listened to an audiobook and read an ebook as well, so about 8 books in total. So if you'd like to know which books I read in the month of March and what I thought about them, just keep watching. So the first book I read in the month of March is Cinder, and that is by Marissa Meyer. So this is the first book in the Lunar Chronicles series, and I have to say I really enjoyed it. It follows our main character Cinder. It's like a Cinderella retelling if you haven't already guessed. It follows our main character Cinder, and she is like part robot basically. So she was in a car accident when she was younger, and she's got like a lot of her body is actually mechanical. So it follows her story as she is living with her stepmother and her 2 like ugly stepsisters. She also has a kick-ass little robot sidekick who is super cool. And it just follows her journey, and she gets kind of intertwined with the royal family, and it's really good. I'm super excited to pick up Scarlet, which is the second book in the series, and I know that it's kind of linked in with this one as well. So yeah, really excited to pick up the next book because I really enjoyed this one. The next book I picked up in March is Ashe, and that is by Melinda Lowe. So I quite enjoyed this one. I didn't enjoy it to the same level as Cinder, but it was still a really fun, easy read. It follows our main character called Ashe, and her mother has died when she's quite young, and then her father has recently just got remarried when he dies as well. So again, this is another Cinderella retelling. But it follows her journey as she's pretty much a slave to her stepmom and her stepsisters again. And again, she kind of gets intertwined with the royal family, and it's just about her story. There's also some like fairies involved in this, and kind of like a magical world as well. So it was a really good read, and I like the fact that both of these books actually took the Cinderella story but made them a bit more like fun. And so you had like obviously the cyborgs and all the kind of robot things going on in Cinder, and then in Ashe you got like fairies. So they've both kind of taken like a futuristic or magical element, which I really liked. So the third book I read in March was A Throne of Glass by Sarah J Maas. So this is the book that caused my reading slump. Now I know that this series is kind of like beloved on BookTube, and I've heard such great things about it, but I just really didn't enjoy it that much. It took me about 2 weeks to actually get through, which I've never had happen with a book before, and I just found the pacing to be really bizarre. It follows our main character, who I can't even remember her name, Kalina, I think it is. So it follows our main character, and she is in like the mines because she was in a rebellion, so she's now basically a slave, and she gets picked to be the princess champion in this like competition, and whoever's champion wins gets to be a servant to the king and then get their freedom after 5 years. So she's one of the champions, so there's loads of different little tasks that they've got to do. Well, I say little tasks. There's a lot of different tasks for them to do to kind of like prove their worth. So there's ones where they've got to like try not to get poisoned, like there's loads of glasses in front of them kind of thing. So it like builds up a lot to this like big main event, and then it's kind of over and done with, and that's it, done. I've heard such good things about it, so I actually think, even though I didn't enjoy this book, I still might pick up the next book in the series just to give it a go, because I feel as though I should really enjoy this series. So I don't know if it was just kind of like the mental state I was in. However, once I finally finished this book and picked up something else, I kind of found myself enjoying reading again. So I think it actually might have been the book's fault. But I still think I'm going to give the series a chance and pick up the second book, as I've been told that it is a bit better than the first. Those were the 3 books I got through for the hashtag Year-a-thon's retelling challenge, and then the next books that I picked up in March were for the Irish readathon. So I was really excited to read these books, but because I'd spent so long trying to get through A Throne of Glass, I only managed to read 3 instead of the I think like 5 or 6 that I'd originally picked out. But you know, I'm trying. The first book I read for the Irish readathon is In the Woods by Tana French. It was a really good book, and I really enjoyed it until like, I'd say like probably until I had about this much left, so until right at the end. And then I just hated the main character. Something happens between him and one of the other characters, and his reaction to it is the most god-awful thing. Like, these two characters, you've seen them grow and develop and like have this beautiful, beautiful friendship, and they're basically so in sync with one another, and it's totally platonic, and like they love each other so much as friends, and oh, it was so nice. And then he ruins it, and it's not even like part of the main story, so it didn't even need to happen. It was just this like add-on bit that I hated so much. So the last like 100 or 2 pages of this, I hated the main character so much, and I wish that I'd kind of just stopped reading. And it does kind of like finish on a really like ambiguous ending as well. So I should probably actually tell you the plot of the story before I just start rambling about the things I didn't like about it. It follows our main character Rob, and when he's younger, 2 of his best friends go missing, and he's actually with them when they go missing, and he's found kind of covered in their blood, but his 2 best friends are never found. So then Rob becomes a police detective, and he works on the murder squad, and he is kind of brought back to this little village where his friends went missing because a similar case has happened. So he and his team are kind of investigating the murder, and obviously he's kind of reliving this trauma that he went through because it's the same people that are living there now, and he's obviously trying to like deal with it from the other side, so not from the missing family but from the police side. So I really, really liked the idea of this book and really liked everything until the ending. Like I said, just Rob done fucked up is what I'm trying to say. He just was so annoyed. But I really liked the book overall, and I'm definitely going to check out some more of Tana French's work because I believe there are more books in this kind of like Irish detective series, so I will be super excited to check those ones out. The next book I picked up for the Irish Readathon is The Wonder by Emma Donoghue. So this book was the most bizarre thing that I've ever read. This met the challenge of a historical fiction like set in Ireland, and I forgot to say the Tana French one. I believe I picked this because it was a female Irish author, but I can't actually remember. Yeah, so The Wonder, it follows a young nurse, and she is been kind of shipped over from England to Ireland because there is a girl there who is claiming that she hasn't eaten in 4 months but she's still alive, and the nurse's responsibility is to basically find out if this girl is lying, like how she's surviving 4 months without eating basically. So her and a nun are put on like rotating shifts, and for like 8 hours they watch this child and make sure that she doesn't eat. Not that they make sure she doesn't eat, but they make sure that she's telling the truth when she says she's not eating. They're obviously not going to stop the kid from eating. Yeah, it was a really, really lovely story actually. You'd be surprised, and the ending I absolutely loved. But I really, really enjoyed it. It was a strange one, I have to say, and it was set in like I think it's like the 1800s as well. So it was a lot different to kind of all the modern books I've been reading and all the futuristic books I've been reading. So it was a really, really nice change, and I really enjoyed it. So if you think you like the sound of it, definitely check it out. Even if you're not sure, just check it out anyway, because it was definitely worth the read. The final book I picked up for the Irish Readathon, this meets the challenge of an Irish classic, and that is a Bach Child by Siobhan Dowd. So I picked this one up from a recommendation from a friend, and it follows the story of our young main character who finds the body of a child in a nearby bog. So while he's kind of living his life, it's set in Ireland during the Troubles, so during the period when Ireland was kind of at war with itself and at war with like Britain, and just everything was going a bit crazy. And so we follow our main character, whose name is Fergus, and he's trying to like sit his exams, trying to better his life, but he's also just found this body of a child in the bog. So he kind of is part of like the investigation, and you see the story from like Fergus, but you also kind of see like the version, like this body's like story as well, which I thought was really, really interesting. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed this book. I flew through it and read it, I think in just like 2 nights of sitting down and reading it. I definitely recommend that one. So, so good. It also made me realise how little I actually knew about Irish history, so I've been kind of like doing some Wikipedia searches just to kind of like familiarise myself with everything that was going on as well. The next book I picked up was Eliza and Her Monsters by Francisca Zapier. I love this book. I just loved it loved it. You need to check it out. It was fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. It follows our main character, who is a comic book writer, but nobody around her knows, and a new boy moves to her school and he is a really big fan of her comic. He actually writes fan fiction for it, and it's the two of them becoming friends and her dealing with the like secret that she's keeping from him, and also dealing with like stress and anxiety from keeping the secret life, and also from just all the workload she's putting on herself. It's just such a fantastic book, and I highly recommend it. It actually had me in floods of tears when I was sitting reading it. I was reading it at like 11 o'clock at night till like 1 in the morning for a couple nights, and I was just in floods of tears, and it was just so beautiful, and just like I connected with it so much with my own anxiety issues. So yeah, I would definitely recommend everyone checks that one out. The next book that I actually listened to, it was an audiobook, is Crier's Cross, and that is by Lisa McCann. So this audiobook I picked because one, it's 4 hours, and two, because it didn't sound too complicated, and I thought if I'm trying to get back into listening to audiobooks I should start with a simple one. So Crier's Cross follows our main character. She lives in a town where a girl has gone missing, and it's kind of following the story of like how everyone's dealing with that, but more specifically a few months later our main character's best friend goes missing. So that's more from the point that it's taken from, about her best friend Nico going missing. So our main character has OCD, she has like quite obsessive thoughts. I've heard that the representation of the OCD in it isn't that great, so I obviously don't have OCD, so I couldn't really vouch for it, but that's just what I've heard. That is not the best representation ever. But yeah, I didn't totally pick the book because I thought it was going to be like the best story ever. I just really kind of wanted to like get into an audiobook, because I feel as though I waste a lot of my time listening to music when it could be a book instead. But I have a lot of trouble actually following a story when it's on an audiobook. So this time I decided to do a little bit different. I actually read it at, I think it was like 1.5 or 1.75 speed, which I found a little bit better. The narrator's voice was quite like slow and withdrawn anyway. I thought kind of speeding it up would maybe get my interest in it a bit more, and I really think that that helped a lot. Because I kind of flew through the audiobook, I remembered everything that happened, and I was like doing other things while I was listening to it. It wasn't like I was just sitting. I was kind of like doing dishes, doing cleaning, or I was like walking to work and stuff like that, and doing paperwork at work. So yeah, I think if I'm going to read more audiobooks in the future, I'm going to have to make sure they're like quite short, maybe not the best quality ones, but that I listen to them at a faster speed as well, just so I kind of keep my interest. Although sometimes the voice does sound quite funny when it's sped up, I'm not going to lie. Like it just sounds a bit gibberish, so I didn't quite get it onto 2, because to me that was just like the person sounded completely mental. That has been my March wrap up, and those were the books that I managed to get through in March. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please let me know what books you read in March, or if you've read any of the books that I've picked up in March, especially Throne of Glass. Let me know your opinions on Throne of Glass. I'm really interested. But please give this video a big thumbs up if you've enjoyed, and hit that subscribe button down below as well, just so you can check out some more of my videos. But thank you again so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!